I mean, I started building games when I got my first computer, which was a TRS-80 microcomputer. This is back in the 80s. And it was like a little bitty computer you get from Radio Shack. And so it was just like basic stuff that it was like a lot of procedural code and all in BASIC. And that's basically, I just enjoyed it. It was just like there was a power to creating something on the computer and seeing it up on the screen. So I always had an interest, and I just love gaming mostly on consoles. I've never been a big PC gamer, but I'm a filmmaker, and that's really where my interests were especially when I was, getting older. I always wanted to go make movies, and so I was out in Hollywood for 26 years, and I decided to leave. My wife and I have 2 kids, and I was like, it's not a city for family, and so it was moved. But while I was out there, I did do some development, but most of it was just been indie. Like the stuff that I did professionally was mostly browser. Like I don't know if you remember the old Flash games back in the day. Not Newsground. I'm talking about like if you go to a website and there would be some sort of like Flash element or Flash games. I used to build those for the studios.
So I'm a lot younger than you, but not to throw shade or anything.
Well, you didn't have to say a lot. No,
I'm centuries. No. I just want to clarify that, like, so for me, Flash games were the first, like, really the only thing I remember about like PC gaming as a kid. I wasn't exposed to, Doom or any of the multitude of like real PC games out there. Like when I was a kid, it was just like, that was what it looked like. Aside from, your Microsoft games, your Minesweep, your, Ski Free, that kind of shit. But like similarly, growing up, every video game was just like a console. Like to me, it was synonymous. And then maybe like arcade had already kind of like come and went. It was a novelty by the time that I remember being excited about games.
Oh God, did you miss the arcades? Oh my God, dude,
I like arcades, but yeah,
they were the best.
Like by the time I think I was old enough to be interested in games at all, arcades had already become like, an arcade machine in the Pizza Hut while you're waiting for your pizza or that kind of thing, or going to Chuck E. Cheese, but not like spending a lot of time, going to the arcade to try to get the next high score on Donkey Kong. Like that's all documentaries by the time I come to the picture.
Oh man, I used to go to putt golf and games where I grew up, and they used to have putt, which was miniature golf, and then inside they had an arcade, and every like Saturday morning they had for like hours. Every $20 got you $30 worth of tokens, and every kid would come, and it was just packed, and we'd play everything. I mean, it was so much fun. I mean, it was like, and they'd always have new games rotated in and out. Like it was something else.
I for a little while when I was younger, I worked for an electrician, like basically as his apprentice, and I was tasked to design the lighting for this. There's like a laser tag arena, but they also, of course, have an arcade. And so that was like really, really cool because I got to like spend a lot of time around these machines before, like not paying money to do it, that kind of thing, no lines and that was a really, really cool experience. I think I probably just blew through all of my lunch breaks on Terminator Salvation, the rail shooter game.
Oh yeah.
I love that stuff. Yeah. I love light gun games. I think that's something that arcade, does right. That even with VR, I don't think it's been really fully explored yet and like taken to the next level.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think, I mean, I light rail makes sense because it's truly, most of the games right now you see in arcades are like super interactive. Like you have to have some sort of tool or something to interact with the screen as opposed to a joystick, because anybody can interact that way at home. So they got most of those. What are they? Fuddruckers and Dave and Buster's or whatever. I don't know. It's like all those. My kid is like, whenever he goes to a birthday party, like they would, sometimes it would be at like a Dave and Buster's or something, and we all got to go play video games, and that's pretty much all they have was like the light guns.
Even at Dave and Buster's, like, what kinda really pisses me off is I go there and I want to play, the classic arcade games, but what they have are these sort of, like, bastardized, flashy versions of those games. So, like, if you wanna play Space Invaders, you have to play the giant Space Invaders that doesn't really follow the same rules with, like, the crazy light display, all that shit. I was like, "Dude, I just wanna stand at the cabinet," at the time with a cold beer in my hand, and like, whatever, just, like, enjoy this thing. I remember we had a really sick arcade bar. I used to live in, downtown Tucson. Er they had this really, like, nice arcade bar that had all these classic machines, Miss Pac-Man, just like, it was virtually a museum. And honestly, they probably would have made more money as a video game museum than they ultimately did as a nightclub for whatever time
Right.
that lasted. But you go to a place and you want to enjoy that thing, and then you have like I don't know, just like super loud bass music and a DJ screaming and like girls booty dancing on you and knocking you around, and you're like, dude, I'm just trying to like play some freaking Space Invaders right now.
Right.
Yeah. What were the games specifically that like caught your eye, made you think like this is achievable?
Oh, let me shit. There was one. Oh, it's okay to cuss, right?
Oh, please. Yeah, I'd be
Okay.
insulted if you didn't.
Well, I just want to make sure. I never know like where the line is on these on podcasts, but
No, of course.
there was a wrestling game. It was called Map Mania. You probably have never heard of it, but that was you know that one?
I love wrestling games specifically, so I've like kind of
Oh, this is the
yeah,
best one. It's like
yeah,
2D sprites. You gotta they have video on YouTube where sometimes I'll go and I'll look at it and just I mean, I've dumped and it was a lot back then. Like I would get you'd save up money and you have like $40, right?
yeah.
$40 is a lot of money to a kid, and I would dump all of that into Map Mania. And I was so addicted to that game. And it's just the funnest game, man. It's like I think it's made by Tato.
Yeah, I
And
found it, and,
yeah.
we'll have to make sure people who are listening along, like, can grab it. It's a Matt, M-A-T space Mania
Yeah,
is what it's
Map
called.
Mania.
Yeah, epic, dude,
Yeah.
epic shit.
Yeah, it's awesome, and what's so funny about it is you play it the last guy you play, which is basically a Hulk Hogan ripoff.
Yeah.
I think the guy before him is like the Ultimate Warrior ripoff, but there's another guy named Coco Savage who is
Oh,
the
yeah.
hardest he's, like, right in the middle, he's, like, the hardest one to fight.
Is Coco Savage supposed to be Macho Man or Coco Beware or, like, somewhere in
I don't know.
between?
I don't know,
Yeah,
it's a good question.
yeah,
But that's yeah, it's a good game. Another one is Legend of Cage. I don't know if you remember this one, it's a ninja one.
Legend of Cage.
Yes.
No, this is complete news to me.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, well, that's what I mean. It's like these were all the arcade games, and I would go and just be and just absolutely addicted to these really cool games. I'm surprised arcades aren't a thing. The amount of fun that we had as kids, and I mean, because it
mm,
was so loud. You'd go into an arcade and it would be so loud and just bling, music and sound. Like I sent you that Sony Daytona USA song. That used to be playing on the Daytona USA video game, and you'd walk into an arcade and you could hear. Of course, I was
it's
like 90.
overpowering all the other machines, like
This guy just bellowing out, "Dang!" Just really super loud. It just yeah, it's incredible. I
I think
miss
that's
arcades.
another cool thing about arcades that we do not have at all anymore is aside from maybe going to an expo, like if you're at Gamescom or at PAX or something like that, you see physical representations. So, like, part of the appeal of an arcade game is does it catch your attention physically in the arcade? Like the way it's designed, the way it looks, the way it sounds, the lights on them, everything gets calculated into that.
Right.
And then honestly, a shitty uh game could be popular because it's really flashy, and then vice versa. But then ultimately, like, we kinda narrowed down what stood the test of time gameplay wise, I think.
Yeah. And
Um,
I'd say also Street Fighter. Street Fighter
Street
2.
Fighter, yeah. Street
That
Fighter 2,
was
I think, is a lot of people, like, kinda
loved it. I was okay, but what I would do is I would play, and if I was getting my ass beat, I would just go I was always as Blanca,
mm.
Blanca, whatever. And I just do the little, what was it, like, crouch down, and one of the buttons you tap, and he just has the electricity, and you just shock everybody. And if you didn't know how to counter that attack, which a lot of people didn't, it was a pretty good cheap move.
I've always been terrible at fighter games. It's, like, so bad. Even, like, I think when I was a kid, the really popular. Of course, we had all the wrestling games, but aside from that, because I think by the time, I remember playing like SmackDown versus Raw, wrestling games had become more technical than
Yeah.
the classic arcade style stuff. Like I just totally sidetrack here. I think WrestleMania 2000 was like the most well designed gameplay wise, and
Wow.
there are other games that sort of share the controller schemes and the way that you actually choose to do moves that borrows from an earlier arcade interpretation versus later when they started to have like, okay, you're gonna have a series of grapples and then, have to capitalize on that or like submission meters and stuff like that,
Right.
which is still cool, but different. Uh, but yeah, I think that fighting games are always just like really confusing to me. I'm not fast enough, which is ironic because I liked Quake, which is way faster, just in a completely different way. I guess it's the memorization of patterns, um, like on the fly that really sucks. And then when you're practicing with other people, like if you're playing with a friend or in my case, like your big brother or something, they don't really give you the time to like stop and like, okay, you need to take your time and study this and like figure out what this combo is or how to do that or anything like that. It's just you get creamed and then it's like, all right, kid, pass the controller. So it was kind of School of Hard Knocks gaming in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
No, for sure. I mean, I was never really great at fighter games, like fighting games, but I did like Street Fighter 2. I just thought it was fun. I actually do better against the computer than I do other people because you always find those guys that like they always have the quarters lined up. This used to be a thing that put the quarters up on the
Right. Right.
screen, and that means like that. There's how many games I'm playing,
Or
and
same as
so
at the pool hall, you put your quarters on the side of
there
the
you go.
pool table to indicate you're in line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they would just back them up with quarters saying, "This is how many games I'm playing," and, like, it would always be some guy who was just, like, too good for it, and he was so cocky, and he always picked, like was it Dawson or whatever, that guy with the long arms, and you were like, "Why?" Like, it would just suck to play him, and you just wanted to play the computer.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is like, video games as a hobby. Meanwhile, your real dream was filmmaking. So when did you like start to go in that direction?
I mean, it was just I was young. I mean, it's like I had the 2 interests. I had video games and, film. Those were the 2 things I was most interested in, and then as I got older, just tech in general was something that really just something kinda cool about being able to put something into a machine that then, kinda does back what you ask it to do, and, um, I don't know, it film was ever since I mean, look, I saw the original now I'm really gonna date myself. I saw the original Star Wars when I was really, really young in the theater,
Right.
and I was hooked.
To be fair,
Loved
movies stayed in the theater longer than they do now. So it could be a range there. It doesn't necessarily have to be like the day it
It
came
was it
out.
was it was probably 1977, but I was, like,
Okay.
really young. I was, like, 3 years old or so. But, I was probably too young to be, but I just remember it. I remember going home, and I had all these stuffed animals in my room, and I just redid the whole movie with, like, Kermit was, Luke Skywalker, and Cookie Monster was, like, Darth Vader, whatever, and just loved it. And I was hooked, and every time that there was come like 1980 and then 1983 with The Return of the Jedi, every time one of those movies came out, I was and so I went to film school. I went in the military, 91, and then 94 or no, 95, I went to film school. And, so I was there 4 years. 99, I moved out to LA. And I just now moved to Austin, Texas, because I was, like, done with LA.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good move, and then a lot of people obviously felt the same way that you did, but there's a lot in between there. So out of did you? I'm assuming you finished high school. Do you
Yeah.
go to film school? Do you?
Yeah, I went to film school in 95 to
Right.
99,
I
and
was
then
born in
moved.
May 1995.
Okay, so I was a
Yeah.
freshman. I was out in the military and a freshman, so
Right.
there you
Okay.
go. And you were in diapers.
Right. Well, you were fighting the Cold War. Thanks. Um,
I'm not quite that old.
this is like the first generation in a long time that gets to like throw the previous generation's military under the bus. It's like there's always that like you old timers, and I think like outside of Desert Storm, nothing really happened for a while.
Well, that's why I joined was Desert
Yeah.
Storm. That
Okay.
was when I
Yeah.
joined, and, that was '91, and by the time I went to boot camp, it was over. So I
Okay.
was, at that point, considered peacetime. I mean,
So
you're
we got
still
all mixed up here. Hold on. So you go to the military first and then go to
yeah,
film school.
right.
Okay. Right, and is that how you paid for it? Was it GI Bill or
Gotta get the GI Bill, son. But, I kinda messed up on the GI Bill 'cause, I get the GI Bill and I go to college and I'm thinking, "Okay, I've got these college loans, and then I'm gonna use the GI Bill because I need money and it's kinda hard to work." Because the school I went to, the film school, it was a conservatory.
Mhm,
It's an art school. So you don't have a lot of free time, and it's hard to balance work with it. So
mm,
I think my junior year and senior year, I moved off campus, and so I was using the GI Bill to help subsidize me, to
yeah,
help pay rent and stuff.
yeah,
Well, you're not supposed to do that, and I didn't know, and so the registrar, or well, I don't know, I guess there would be financial aid department of the school was like, "Hey, we made a mistake." Because 'cause they're supposed to tell you.
yeah,
Because I don't have any idea that that's how it's supposed to work. I give them all the information, and they don't take the financial aid. It's coming to me directly. But
right,
they were like, "No, no, no, you're supposed to give it to us." I said, "Well,
yeah,
nobody explained that." Anyway, so I get, halfway through my senior year, and they're, like, talking about kicking me out because I owe them, I forget how much money, and I'm like, "You gotta be kidding me." So they were able to do some magic, and then the film school was able to put some funds, whatever, and then I had to pay them back before end of year. So I was able that way, I had to go and get a job and get the money, but it was kinda sucked.
okay. So you joined because of Desert Storm?
Yeah.
You were like, "It's time to go, man, this is my chance," or what
Well,
was the feeling?
I think that's what most people do
I
when.
watched Jarhead, like, 3 days ago, so,
Oh, okay, there you go.
no, no,
Yeah, no, it's like, I was just like any, red-blooded young
yeah,
kid, you get out of high school, and then there's something going on, and, you gotta. Yeah, it's just like after 9/11, everybody there's so many people enlisted.
right,
I've got friends, obviously younger than me, who went on the tour duty at Iraq and all that, and they like my neighbor over here, and he's a veteran, he's a good friend. I just met him since I moved here, but we quickly became friends. Again, he did the same thing where after 9/11, he joined.
I
I
think
just
my
kinda.
generation was ISIS. That was what was super big in the news. We were
Sure.
having to go back to Iraq. This is 2016 is when I enlisted, and
Oh,
I had been
wow.
listening, there was that age, I was like 18, 19, and Sam Harris in my ears all the time, and I was kinda, I'm not gonna say radicalized, but I was pretty, like, I felt good about joining the military. Like, I really thought I was doing the right thing when I did it.
Sure, sure.
Yeah,
Well, I
and I
mean,
feel
that's
like
when you're
it's
young, you do. You
yeah,
wanna go and do something patriotic, and,
right,
you feel like you have a duty, especially I don't know, I just think it's something that young men just experience. I don't know.
sure, yeah,
I've never seen that in young women, like, that I've talked to, even ones that join, they were like, "Mm, no, that was really just like,
right.
you know, it's a
It's
job."
extraordinarily rare that you find, like, a female service member who is like, "I joined because I wanna go kill the bad guys." Like
Yeah,
that, it's very rarely what they say, and or
yeah,
not, yeah, not that they don't exist. Uh,
sure,
Shout out to Master Sergeant Annie Wright, retired, probably the baddest female who's ever been in the military as far as I'm concerned, but yeah, like, I know that that exists. It's just not common.
sure. Sure, sure, sure,
Um,
sure.
yeah, what was it like, though? And it's the Navy, you go out, are you on a ship at any point? Are you stateside?
Yeah, I was on a ship called USS Bowen.
Okay,
Um, it was a fast frigate, FFT. It was a Vietnam class ship,
right,
and so I was in the communication center. I was a radioman, so I just handled the communications and, set up, like, satellite cryptographic communications, things like that. You had to have to get in the door, you have to have a confidential security clearance. I had a
mhm,
top secret because I had to deal with crypto, a little different than blockchain crypto. Um, but,
yeah,
it was definitely crypto, and we'd have, like, a safe in the back that had 2 locks on it, and I knew the combination of one, and somebody else had to know the combination of the other, and, like,
yep,
so we could get in there. It's like two-person integrity, they called it.
right, yeah,
But yeah, it was cool. I enjoyed going out to sea. I love being out on the water. I wish when I was in LA, I could have enjoyed that more, but, yeah, I do. I
there's
love
something
being on
really
the water.
romantic about being on a boat like that. It's so like
Uh,
the Air Force, we just don't get that. Like, there's no, even if you're in a fob or whatever, there's no, like, sense of adventure, like we're cutting new ground or like going to a place that other people haven't been or something. And there's just something about the ocean where you kind of always have that, as long as you can't see land, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, there's something about, like, standing out on the deck and looking in all directions, and there's nothing but water as far as the eye can see.
were you already pretty tech savvy before that, or did you gain a lot from the Navy?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I was already, like I told you at the beginning, when I was a kid, I would program in BASIC and make little games and
Mhm.
animations and things like that. Um, but I took the ASVAB. I scored a little higher than, like, one of my friends. We went in on a buddy system, so we
Mm.
we matched. I said, "Okay, well, let's just find something we can both agree on that your score kinda matches," and so we picked Radeon, and I wanted something more technical, and then,
Mm.
so I went into that, and I was really good. I almost made naval history, believe it or not. My ops, which was the 3rd in command of the ship, was going to promote me, to go run it up the chain of command and promote me to, was it watch supervisor? Because I was an E3 doing, watch supervisor work, but I couldn't have the title of watch supervisor, and basically, that just means that I run the shift,
Right.
and, like, you have to at least be a petty officer, which would be, E4, and I was an E3 and E2, E3 doing, um and so he said he was going to run it up, and then I got in some trouble, and so, that kinda blew that up, but that's a long story.
Yeah, it's just so much fun you could get yourself into. It's kind of a classic thing about, like, if you take a bunch of dumbass kids, and stick them on a boat together for a long time or anywhere, just put them somewhere together long enough, and they will find ways to get in trouble, to blow things up, to yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, plus, like, you're a sailor and you go out to the bars or whatever, and people get a little buzzed and then rowdy. I mean, there's a reason why sailors have the
Reputation.
reputation they have,
Yeah.
and
Um,
so there would be fights and things like that, and you get in trouble, and,
yeah.
like, you wind up coming back to the ship, and then you gotta stand in front of the big man and go to captain's mast, and then you get
Yeah. I
you get in
feel like
trouble.
there's a reputation is you're like, simultaneously expected to be above your reputation and then also to uphold it. Because I know, like, if you're a sailor and you get your ass kicked in a bar fight by some other branch, like, everyone hates you. You've made the Navy look bad. If you're supposed to yeah, I don't understand it. But all of the every time I ever went to training, it was always joint force, and it was always with other branches, and everyone clicks up like that. Um, so
I
I don't
think it's a young people thing.
yeah.
Like, when you get a little older, are you part of the Legion or anything like that? Or you join the American Legion or
No, no, no,
oh
no.
oh, I love, like, the
Should I?
Legion.
Should I do
Yeah, yeah,
that?
totally. It's fun. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's a group of people and, like, but it's like high school. Like, I mean, some of these guys are high school about it, and, there's politics. I like to go, and, like, sometimes they have free food and things like that, and, like, in LA, there was a historic Legion. It was called
Mhm.
Post 43. Still a member of it, through 2026. Um, but it's been in movies. They filmed there. I mean, it was even in an episode of, like, The Simpsons, but they it's got an art deco bar and a cabaret room, and they'll have, like, we'd go on a Sunday because 'cause they'd have big band play, and so there'd be these people, come in and they'd play big band music, and it was great, and you'd see a lot of old people up there dancing, and who doesn't wanna see that?
Yeah.
I loved it. I would go and I'd watch, like, the really, really old timers get up and dance to the big bands, and it was just fun.
Yeah, man. I think everybody has to have this kinda ties into both, the tribalism of kids in their uniforms and also just, like, needing to be a part of a group, socialism
Uh,
like, socialization, I should say. Um, I mean, around here, it wasn't too long ago, I took my wife and the baby to this place. I'm gonna name it again later on the podcast when I have time to make sure I say the name right, but it's like a bluegrass, venue/store. So you, like, walk in and they have, like, guitars and stuff on display, but once you get into the proper, it's like a dance hall and a full stage, and they just let people, like, on Friday nights, anybody who wants to show up and play music is allowed to. Granted, you're kind of expected to not play, like, death metal or something. You're gonna get booed off the stage. But just, like, you know, the crowd is old. Most people there are retired plus,
yeah.
65 kinda, but seeing them, like, having that community and a place to,
Oh,
celebrate this
definitely.
thing that they love and all that kinda thing.
Mhm.
Even though it's, like, not really my scene. I mean, I'm a musician, don't get me wrong, but, like, it would be really difficult for me to sell myself as, like, a country bluegrass musician at this time. But, like, you can learn so much from seeing people, to get together and exchange ideas no matter what that is. If it's the American Legion or Freemasons or whatever the heck it is that you do. I'm a big proponent of that.
Yeah, yeah, and I think a big part of it is look, most of what I gravitate towards has a very youthful group around it, like video games, typically very youthful. Same with movies to some extent. And then so I'm around young people all the time, and it's great. And I also want to talk to old people. I don't people my own age too. So I like to, talk to people who are middle aged, as well, and people who are older and people who are younger. I just find it fascinating. Like, I may not have a lot in common with the guys out there dancing at the dance hall, listening to the old big band, but I like watching them because I know that they're happy and they lived a life. It's just fun. I don't know. It's a human element to it
I'm
that I
just a
love.
curious person. Like, I wanna know what people are thinking about and why
Yeah,
they think it or why do they do this thing. No matter what I could walk into a bluegrass hall or, go to, I don't know, a Colombian cocaine, it's like smuggling ring and probably have interesting conversations with both. I love creativity in any form. I just like it's worshipful how much genius and, like, beauty comes out of just the simple act of creation.
right.
Which is so hard to explain. Do you feel like you were innately creative, or were you sort of like a sponge or a like I feel like a lot of people who are artistic kind of either are going to be people who are successful because they're really good at talking and being social, or they're people who are quiet and like observe other people, and that's why they're good at filmmaking, or that's why they're good at telling stories because they experience life that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Community had that episode where Ahmed, yeah, he does that, right? Like, he's, like, the weird autistic guy, and they find out there's a reality show about them because through his lens, that's how he sees it. Like,
I'm
I'm a
I
passenger.
I've heard good things about that show, and,
Yeah.
I haven't watched it. I like everybody that's on it,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
um,
Joel
but
McHale and, like, yeah,
yeah, they're all great, but I've just never brought myself to watch it.
yeah.
There's just certain shows that people swear by. That's one, and then, The Wire is another that people swear by, and I've never seen that, and people
I
are
think The
like,
Wire is
"What?"
overrated, to be
Okay, good, good, okay. I
yeah,
watched the 1st season, and
yeah.
I thought it was good, but I wasn't, like, sucked in. Everybody's like, "Oh, it gets
I
better in season
I
2." I
I
was
think it's like the Beatles where it's like it's cutting edge at the time, and then by the time you or I come to it, right, I've seen The Shield, I've seen Justified, like, way grittier cop shows, right? But
Alright,
it
no,
was the first
no,
one.
watch your mouth about the Beatles now. Come on. No, I'm
Well,
just
I love the Beatles too, but I'm just saying, like,
I'm just
when
messing with
if you heard the Beatles in 1961
yeah,
or whatever, and it was, like, the first time you heard music like that
yeah.
versus you hear the Beatles and now I've heard Nirvana all the way back as far as rock and roll goes, it's just different. It's not the same
That's
anymore.
that's that's likely the most Gen Z thing you've said so far.
It's true.
It is. Well, it's funny 'cause I've heard other Gen Zers, like, say things similar to what you said, where, what was the one I heard recently was, "This is the best time for music because you can listen to all the new stuff and the old stuff," and I just thought it was, like, such a funny
It's just not
comment.
but it's not the same as, like, when it's part of the zeitgeist that you're experiencing at that
Y
time. That's a
exactly.
different thing. Like, it'd be difficult for me to explain to, like, my son how big of a deal Biggie Smalls was
Right.
50 years from now. But at the time, it was, like, amazing. It transcended everything. It completely changed
Movies
music.
and video
Yeah,
games, all the same. It's like
yeah.
I mean, look, we were talking about Star Wars. I don't think the original trilogy excites people as much. I mean, people look at it and go, "That was okay,"
Mm,
but at the time, it was a phenomenon, and it really is based on where you are in the world at a time. It's new, it's fresh,
mm.
100%. I
Yeah.
go back and listen to music that I listened to back when I was, younger. Like, I started listening to Beastie Boys again because my son I'm trying to find music for him to and I turn that stuff on and I'm like, "Wow, like, these are good songs," but they just don't have the resonance that they had to for me and when I was a kid.
I feel like they like the Beastie Boys specifically, and I think this is why Rick Rubin ultimately kind of left the whole thing behind him and went on to other genres. It's like they played out the whole hip hop thing to the nth degree. It's like it started off, it was fresh, it was new, it was interesting, and then it kind of came full cycle. And by the time the Beastie Boys are sort of 6 albums into their career, it's more like that we've done everything that we've could do with this. It's sort of hollow at a certain point. It doesn't have that youthful like soul to back it up anymore. Emotionally, if I go back and listen to like Brass Monkey now, it's stupid. It's a cool beat and everything, but it's just like, what am I getting out of this? What are they even talking about?
Well, they're talking about a drink.
Yeah, yeah.
But, I mean, what is it's also of a different time. I mean, they were today, they would be considered really misogynistic, and,
Mm,
but I play it for my son, and, like, I show him, like, to show him some of the videos, and they're probably a little too adult for him. So he goes to the school, and he's like, "I'm a Beastie Boy," and pushes people down. I'm like, "Okay, let's probably need to cut that out." But,
yeah.
probably doesn't need to be doing that, but, I mean, of the time, it was big. I remember when that Beastie Boys came out, I was in Myrtle Beach, you know
Okay.
that,
Mhm.
and I was there at the beach with my parents, and we're in one of the condos in the water, and I had no idea, I mean, I was just a kid. I wish my parents would have said, "Fucking stop," but I would sit out there with a little boom box and play the tape, and when it was done, I flip it over and play it, and it was loud, and I just had it blaring out where everybody's down there trying to enjoy their beach day and
Mm.
enjoy it by the pool, and I'm just sitting there, this idiot kid blaring, "License to Ill," so, there's a little factoid for you.
The other thing about them is that after License to Ill, they never do another record that sounds even kinda close to it, really. Like Paul's
No.
Boutique or, so like it completely, totally different kind of music. No punk rock influence really anymore.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, dude, I love that stuff. That
Well,
largely that came
Ill
through my dad.
Communication had a little
Yeah,
bit of that. I think Ill Communication was them getting back a little bit more to that.
sure. Sure, yeah,
But
like a
but it was much
transition.
more mature. I think there was a maturity to it. License to Ill felt very sort of like you said, like punk influence and like very, very immature, but in a fun way, like the way
Mm,
punk is immature.
right. So when you get out of the Navy and you decide, like, you picked a school, right? You go do that. Obviously, we kinda already covered you almost got kicked out and everything, but, like, what was that experience like for you to kind of first of all, to transition out of the military to civilian life, but also going to film school,
Yeah, I
learning
had no
about the craft of
problems,
it?
like, with the transition, and transition was pretty easy. I was ready to get out. It was
Yeah.
time. I wasn't in for what I wanted to serve for. I went in for during Desert Storm, and that was over. But I served my time. I love my job in the military. But I get out, and I go back home for about a year and go back to school and get some of the courses I need. And I applied to college, and I went to back then it was called North Carolina School of the Arts. Now it's UNCSA, so it's University of North Carolina School of the Arts. And they had a film school there, and I was the third graduating class, so it was brand new, but it was a great school. I went to school with Danny McBride. I don't know if you know him.
Oh, everybody loves Danny, and in Charleston, he's the king of him and Bill Murray are like co-kings of Charleston, right? But
Yeah, so I
yeah,
went
he was
with,
fun.
Danny McBride, and of course, Jody Hill and Ben Best, late Ben Best. But, yeah, we all came out to LA at the same time.
I just wanna
But
clarify, Jody Hill is not Jonah Hill,
no.
right? The 2 get mixed up too often, and, like, Jody Hill himself, being the genius he is, I just don't want that to get, misconstrued.
Well, it's
But
funny, Jody and I were roommates, when we
mm,
first moved out to Burbank, and then, Danny used to crash on our couch or our futon.
that's so cool,
We
man. Yeah.
we couldn't afford a couch.
I thought that Vice Principals was the funniest fucking show ever made. Like, I love the Gemstones, everything that both of them have ever done, but Vice Principals was, like, perfect and so short-lived, phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Eastbound and Down's got a soft spot in my heart.
I think it's Walton Goggins for me. Like I mentioned already, the you said The Wire, the first thing that comes to mind is The Shield, and then I said Justified, and it's like that dude for me just he's hilarious and fantastic actor, but, um,
For sure, for sure.
you're meeting all these people. You don't know, by the way, that they're gonna go on to be multi-mega celebrities and anything like
No,
that.
and we used to work
Mhm.
together in school. Like Jody and I, we were like freaking frack, dude. We were connected at the hip. We were basically I was his cameraman, he was my cameraman whenever we'd go off and shoot things, and, he, yeah, and then when we came out, we all just kinda roomed together for a while, and then he went off with him and, Danny came back to Virginia and left LA, and he wound up, I think he was a substitute teacher for a while. He did some teaching, and Jody was like, "I'm gonna make a movie," and somehow was like, thought that Danny should act in it. Danny
How
wasn't
did
an
you guys
actor.
how did you guys fund movies in, like, North Carolina at the time? Like, how are you getting money?
Well, how had he? Well,
Yeah,
Jody, I think he got it from his dad. I think he saved money. He worked in the Man Show,
yeah.
for a while. I don't know if you remember that show with Jimmy Kimmel and
I remember
Adam
Doug
Carolla.
Stanhope on it.
Oh, yeah, Doug Stanhope and, Joe Rogan, that they came
Yeah,
later.
yeah.
But he used to work on it when Jimmy Kimmel and Adam Carolla were on it, and he was a story editor. He saved up his money, and then his parents helped him out. He got a loan, and I think he had a girlfriend at the time that had access to money. I don't know. That's kinda how most of it happens. Another one of my friends did something similar. Like, he left school, he saved up money, and he came back, and he shot a film in my house that,
Mhm.
part of it in my house that, Roger Ebert, I think, said it was his top 5 of the year. So, but they just go back and they go to their families and just get the money, and that's a big part
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, back then, if you went to college, you usually had money. You either had really exceptional grades or you had family that was subsidizing you. Because they used to look at your parents' income, and the only reason I was able to go was because I was a veteran, so you're considered an independent student, so I could go at 22 and go into the college and get full, loan benefits, and, um, whereas if I was 18 and I never served, they would look at my parents' income, and you have to be pretty low income back then to get a college loan. So it was a huge disparity. People that were mostly in the middle class didn't go to college. It was mostly upper middle class, and then
especially
really,
film school, I mean, of all
yeah.
things, yeah,
Yeah, anytime
yeah,
because anytime you're getting a BFA,
yeah.
you know, you're not a very serious person.
You might be, but yeah, I know what you mean.
But I mean, I could have gone into computer science. I would just my love was for storytelling. I've always had a creative mind and technical. It's been a sort of a warring dissonance there in my head.
Mm.
So, that's why whenever I do make a game, I always try to bring in some story element to it and, be very much focusing on that.
Well, this far into the interview, we haven't even, like, mentioned the name of the game that we're here to talk about, so, Night Jackal has really cool this is by the way, Night Jackal Blood Debt being the sequel to your original game, Night Jackal, which is on Steam, right? But it for a boomer shooter, has a lot of sort of, like, cinematic elements, a lot of, like, rich storytelling that you really don't see in other even just to, like, throw out other DOSMan games, like, I had, Quartermain, I had covered that game, and it's a completely different experience, like, your game having, like, these kind of slow moments where you're, like, walking up and, like, emerging into, like, "Oh, there's a woman here, and she's saying something to me," like, that none of that happens in a Nazi shooter game, right? Not to disparage it, just completely, different way of using the same medium. So,
I
yeah.
don't know if that's a strength or a weakness because it's going to be interesting to see how the audience reacts. Because I'm not
Mm,
making this game is nothing like uh, what the other boomer shooters are. And I don't know if that's a strength or a weakness. So we will find out whenever people play it. I can't wait. And it's
yeah,
gonna we got about 2 weeks, and then, we're gonna see how people respond to it. I think
mhm,
some people are gonna be pleasantly surprised, and I think some people are going to, assume that it was going to be, a straightforward boomer shooter. But it has a lot of story elements.
yeah,
It's a lot of twists, lot of kinda wild things happen, and then, I make the ending. I love the ending, and so The final boss is a lot of fun. That's all I gotta say. And there's also another boss that you never got to,
Mm.
Paradoxia, that is fun. You get to fight a superhero, and, like, it's like, it's a lot of fun to fight him.
I'm definitely gonna finish it up. It's just like I got the build, the latest build that you sent me yesterday, and then I'm
Mhm.
just trying to like grab a couple hours while the baby was asleep during the day today. But yeah,
Sure,
I'm definitely
sure.
gonna keep going. But yeah, it's such an interesting concept, and so there's a few things that I had like kind of written in my notes that I wanted to like pick your brain about. Like, where did this come from? Where did this idea come from? And I feel like you could tell me if I'm wrong. I feel like you're a person who likes Alan Moore a lot.
Oh, I love Alan Moore.
Yeah, so I have the audience can't see these, but I'm a gigantic fan, and I just immediately, like, kind of caught that, okay, we've got a superhero, but he's a fucked up person, he's just having sex with multiple girls at one time and, like, yeah, all that kinda thing, and the prison yard scene, which is, like, right where I left off. I just finished that, so, not too far in, but yeah, I just picked up on that really, really quickly, like and the grappling hook also reminded me of Rorschach perfectly.
Well, it's funny you say
Mm,
Rorschach, 'cause most
mm.
people equate him to Batman,
Or
and
Night Owl, which would be the
yeah.
Watchmen equivalent to Batman. Yeah, yeah, definitely, for sure.
Yeah, he's kind of, so Night Jackal is he's satirical of those characters that are extremely privileged and rich and have a
Mm,
perfect moral compass, like
right,
Batman, you know?
right.
Uh, he's a little bit of that, Booster Gold, but Batman's a really good one to sort of, satirize, because he, you know, there's no kid that's raised in that kind of environment that goes on to have such a perfect moral compass. I mean, I don't give a shit if your parents got killed by, a thug or not, a criminal element piece. I mean,
I feel like you're
you
more likely to be a little fucked up, right, and not have a
yeah.
moral
They
compass, yeah.
they call it
Mm,
affluenza. They
right.
have a term for it where it's like you just don't relate with society. And here he is, he's like the savior, and he's like so smart. And yeah, I was like, that's such bullshit. I love Batman. Don't get me wrong; he's a perfectly good
Well,
character, but it's bullshit. Is
I
it's
I
absolute
like
bullshit.
Frank Miller Batman
Yeah,
specifically, and, like, anything that deviates, like, not to say that I don't enjoy, like, corny Michael Keaton or even, like, Adam West as satire, but when I think about Batman, for me, that's The Dark Knight Rises or
yeah.
that kinda shit, yeah.
So you must have been a big fan of the Nolan films.
I did really, really, really like those films. I even liked the Batman with,
Mm.
Robert Pattinson to it
Yeah, I did
like,
too.
for what it is. I thought it was a really solid movie. Even though I think it like, the things that it did differently, like changing the Riddler, were, like, odd to be angry about when the the Jim Carrey Riddler, while it was awesome because it's Jim Carrey, was not really like the Riddler. Same with the Penguin, the way that, they do the Danny DeVito Penguin being totally bastardized from the way that a Batman fan who reads comic books knows the Penguin. So, I don't know, I just for me, I like the gritty, dark, kung fu badass Batman, not the swanky, silly nipple suit Batman.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
god. No, that's
yeah.
the Schumacher.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Schumacher, I mean, Schumacher surprises you because he created the worst Batman, and then at the same time, he's made The Client and Falling Down, which are just classics. So,
I
he's
I
a
think a
he's
lot of
interesting.
people are under pressure when you're on, like, a big name, like
Yeah.
a big IP like that, you're gonna have producers, you're gonna have people in your ear fucking with you. It's the same as, like, Lynch when he did, Dune. It's not the movie he would have made if he could do whatever he wanted, right?
Yeah, I've never seen that one.
Oh, have you seen the new Dune, like the more recent
I saw
film?
the very first one, and, yeah, I
Mm.
mean, I'm just not a big fan. I don't get what people see in that.
I think
But I haven't read the books
I'm not a big
or the book.
Dune person. I just, like, I feel like if you are into space fantasy, like, or what's the space opera, right? Like Star Wars, that kinda shit. Dune is just another one of those. It's really great, a lot of people like it. Do I think it's the greatest thing ever? Eh. But point being, like, it was at that time, it was like a big budget movie, he's working with major,
Yeah.
investors, and it's not the same as making Eraserhead when you've got people barking, down your neck, making
But
suggestions, moving money
I would
around.
ask, like, why nipples?
Yeah.
Why
and
rubber
probably
nipples?
maybe an oversight. Maybe just like the costume designer threw it on there and no one questioned it. Maybe everyone was afraid to question it. They're like, "Oh,
It was so
that's
bad.
the suit."
And they got really corny. I mean, look, I this is kind of the problem I have with, like, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but this is a problem I have with, just anytime you have any kind of IP and they try to continue it, they never they try to capture the original intent, and, like, Tim Burton is a very
Mhm.
specific filmmaker, and
Yes.
what he did with the first 2 Batmans was unique to him, and so they try to continue that franchise, and you can tell that they're like, "Well, this is what this is about. It's goofy, he's got nipples," and it's like, I don't think Tim Burton, when he was doing this, ever thought this is gonna be goofy. I think he was like, and like, I can't imagine watching those other Batman movies, like the Schumacher one, and just say, "Oh, these guys were taking this seriously." I think they were just like, "This is gonna be goofy, and it's gonna be fun. It's for kids," and it just comes off
The
that way.
mass audience, for Batman are little children who really don't care or know the difference. And then at that time, it's like people who saw Adam West Batman. Uh, and if you want to catch both of those, you have to have kind of a zany, goofy Batman. That's kind of where the character was evolutionarily at that time. And
I
I
would
feel
disagree
like,
with you a little bit.
okay, go ahead.
I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit because at that same time there was, Year One, Part 1, Year One, Part 2,
Mm,
I think there was a comic, so and it was the first time Batman was seen on a cover holding a gun. It was like a turning point, a darker Batman, um, and I think that's what they were tapping into with the choice of the black suit and all that. I think the people are excited. I think people are excited to see a grittier Batman, and and I do think Keaton played a gritty. He's not Christian Bale, but I think he played a gritty Batman. I don't know. That's where I would disagree. I think that the comics and the fans definitely saw Batman in a different light at that point. He was certainly getting more grittier. He still had his blue and grays, but that's where I would disagree with you on it. But again,
mm.
splitting hairs here, splitting absolute hairs on it.
I no, to be I'm just gonna try to, like, make an argument for,
Sure.
like, why it might not be that way. It's
Sure.
not like a personal grudge or anything, but I feel
No,
like
I'm not gonna take a personal grudge. I love this.
yeah,
I love nerding out.
I feel like, when you make a mass appeal, big budget, superhero film, your target audience is not comic book fans.
That's true.
They are already gonna watch your movie. What you wanna bring is, like, grandma and mom and dad and aunt and uncle and all your other kids who aren't into comic books to the theater to watch this thing. Um, and, it almost goes, I was gonna say, like, generationally. So, you get gritty Batman, like, a full generation after Frank Miller's Batman run. So, you have the introduction of that in the comic book world, and then it's like when those people who liked that as a kid get some money and the ability to make a movie or whatever, that they imitate that. And I would just say that it's, like, also true in video games or any other art form. This
Sure.
like, in the '80s, why is it that, like, every horror movie has all these kids with like, absentee parents? They have, like, these big affluent houses and shit like that. It's because like, kids that grew up in the golden age of America are now old enough to make movies about their childhood, even if it's set in the present.
Right.
Yeah, it's just weird. It's, like, weird psychological shit like that. And by the way, you said earlier, like, a tangent. This show is all tangents, so you can
Oh, well,
do
I'm
whatever.
I'm the king of tangents.
Yeah.
You're going down this path,
Yeah,
and all of a
we
sudden
can go down the rabbit hole of Batman
I'm
whenever we
gonna
want.
take you down tangent avenue. I mean, that's
Okay,
just
okay.
that's how I roll.
So, anyway, all this mumbo jumbo about Batman, but so that's an influence on Night Jackal and
A
also
satirical
just
one. Yeah.
right.
I
Yeah.
mean, if you look at the first Night Jackal game, I mean, you're riding around in it's kinda like an Outrun style, like,
Mm,
perspective, a pseudo 3D perspective. And it's all 2D, but it's done. I coded it to be like a pseudo 3D look, so it looks like Outrun and Pole Position, all those kind of pseudo 3D racers, but it has the element of Spy Hunter, and I just thought it would be so great to incorporate this idea that I had for having a character
mm,
that was satirical of Batman when he was just kind of like an awful, and you get a small glimpse of it in the first game. Like, he's just kind of an awful dude. There's an anal joke in it and stuff. It's just stupid. And then all the things that he's saying when he's shooting the cars is uh just, you know, absolute depravity. So and there is a clean version in there. You can click the clean version, you know,
Yeah,
but Night Jackal is, you know, he's a piece of shit. Let's be honest. So, and I think in the second game, Blood Debt, you get more into his character, but he's not so much of a piece of crap. Like, you don't get as much, you don't get a lot into him being such an awful person because he's still kind of the hero of the game.
mm,
But he's got a lot of things that are messed up that is brand new to this game. It's only in this game.
sure.
This story element that which I don't want to give away because it'd be spoiler, but there's a part that you haven't gotten to yet that gets fun.
Yeah. It's really, really interesting to see how, like, you take a character who is flawed like that and still try to find ways to make them sympathetic. And
Yeah.
the classic, or I should, at this point, I guess it's classic, is like kind of the Breaking Bad method of you take Mr. Rogers and turn him slowly into Mr. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde or whatever by the end of it. Like, you did a kind of like a slow drip, and by the end of it, you're cheering on the villain or something. But it's a little bit harder to kind of like make someone sympathetic towards someone after they've already kind of grown accustomed to thinking of them in a certain way. One benefit is that a lot of the people who are gonna pick up the new game are likely not going to have already played the first one, just because of the
Right.
switch in genres and the time difference.
Oh yeah. And you don't need to. It's not a sequel. It's a completely different game. The first one's a racer shooter kind of game. This one is a boomer shooter, and they cover some similar aspects, some of the similar aspects of the story, and then but there's like a whole. This is a much longer game, much more in depth.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, yeah,
I think that's like, a great IP in anything, but in games is one that can transcend genres, right? Like, so, like Duke Nukem or
yeah.
Mario, like they can you can make any number of different genre of games on that IP or based on those characters, that universe. So,
And I think the
and
big
that
part of that is like not being so serious about it. Like, I think
yes.
with I love to have fun with Night Jackal, and I do not I'm never precious with them. So I'm always that's why, the music is so good because I don't come into it trying to force it into like a peg and say, well, it's gotta be into a square hole, and say this is round circle's gotta go in. I just say I want everybody who's making music on this, I give them the idea. Sometimes I give them the lyrics or I sort of, give them inspiration, and then it's always fun. I always tell them, like, "Have fun."
Mm,
And usually what they come back with, unless there's just like a technical mistake, is 100%. Like, there's never any notes. I don't give them notes like, "Hey, I don't like this. Let's try a different path." They always nail it, because they're just so good. I mean, it's just such an easy pathway to creating music because, like the first Night Jackal song, that one was based off the Midway song, for the
mm,
Sega, Daytona USA. And that guy was just like, "Do, do, 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 do." I said, "It's a song about revenge." I said, "Here are the lyrics." And it was just I said, "It's just repetitive lyrics about, like," I said, "Put some do, do, do in there." I said, "Put some put some, going to get revenge, and here's" I said, "But
mm,
just have fun." I said, "Here's your inspiration, do something original." First thing he came back with, I was like, "I fucking love it." And I think it's, like, one of the best things he's ever made. And he even said, he was like, "I had so much fun on this project."
mm.
Um, and that's Young Cray who did the first one, the first
Yeah,
song.
I think it's like really, really good way of kind of getting you into the universe is to have that kind of cheesy. Even later, like, because you have different versions of different Night Jackal songs. Like in the Prison Yard, I think the second version of the song that's introduced in the game. Um, but I
That's a
don't know
fun one.
why. Yeah, but it just really like immerses you in the character, like in the universe. It feels like a cartoon or something like
Mhm.
where you're
Yeah, and all those
seeing.
lyrics are
Yeah,
pertinent to, like, Night Jackal, so I mean, it's kinda hard to understand, because he's belting out, like, the guy who's singing has just got such an incredible voice,
yeah.
um, but, I mean, he's talking about exactly what's happening in the story and sort
Mm.
of where Night Jackal is in the story of the game.
Yeah, so forgive me if because I know you still have a little bit of time before you actually get this thing out there for people to try. So there might be things like that in the build that I bring up that are like already addressed or whatever. Just tell me. I think it's interesting to not have this kind of character doing one-liners like Duke Nukem style as they interact with the world. Is that a creative choice or just something that you decided not to do?
You know, the first Night Jackal game, he is dropping one-liners, and I remember people saying, "Oh, he's kinda like Duke Nukem," because it's just that's what especially if when he's saying things I think of, like, my favorite line, which we made a T-shirt of, is, like, "I hope your family gets AIDS." I mean, it's just so 1980s, it's so fitting, it's just so irreverent. But, of course, I think it's funny, and I'm like, "Isn't this funny to see a Batman character, like, killing people and saying, 'I hope your family gets AIDS,'" just and then you're like, "But he's he sounds like Duke Nukem." And I'm like, "Well, shit, okay, I get where you're coming from." So this one, I said, I just didn't want him to be really talking that much when he's killing people because I'm very aware of the comparison. So I said, okay. And also, it plays into the story, which I'm not going to give away yet because there is voice acting in it.
Mm.
But there's a reason why there's a separation, which you'll find out when you play the game. But so that was a conscious decision. I'm leaning into the very sort of like old school, like, and when you have the comms, when he's communicating with saying at over through the visor and you hear the, "dee-dee-dee-dee-dee," you know, that's like very old school, like Super Nintendo style way of having them communicate. So I stuck to that in the game.
Yeah. It really does a good job of making you feel like I believe the character that you're interacting with at the beginning is Seng, but you and that person having these conversations, and it's sort of almost like a tutorial for the game, kind of stopping you at certain points, even in the middle of action sometime, to just kind of like reground you, let you know where we're going with the story, and so on. A lot of shooters are afraid to do that. A lot of FPS people are kind of from that Half-Life school where it's like, never take the control out of my hands. I always want to be, whatever, that kind of thing. But like you said, you're trying to do something a little bit different here.
Yeah, I
And
mean, it's
first
not.
person games can be story rich. It's just a stupid boomer shooter thing, like these expectations that players have of those.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're gonna if everything has to follow
Yeah.
these tedious rules, then I mean, where's the game? I mean, where's the fun? Where's the curiosity and adventure? Where's the exploration? Where's the surprise?
We
And
You used to sell games based on like, you would see a visual kind of like a poster or something, you wouldn't have any idea really what it was gonna be like, you know? And then you're ready to try something and try to love it when you get your hands on it. But now, the way especially on Steam, the way we sell games is really that's a third order part of the process. The first part is like, does it fit into categories that when someone types or searches by these categories
Mhm.
in a way that I can communicate to them, this is something like other things that you'll like. And
I think
that's
this
like the
is
first way to get in front of them. You know what I mean?
I think this is kind of the anti
Yeah.
boomer shooter to some degree. And it's like it has the elements. I mean, you actually go through and you're shooting, you get to shoot people and like you get to do all the things that you do otherwise. You have all these weapons and I don't think you got far enough to get too many weapons. I think you did see one
I
of the
got up to
miniguns.
the akimbo guns, and that's
Yeah.
where I left off. And then it gives you the chain gun in the prison scene. Spoiler alert.
Oh, by
That's
the way, did you right click for any of the attacks? Did you do the alt attack right clicks?
with the chain gun. Or is
No.
it left with other guns, yes. Yeah, like
Okay.
for with the with the akimbo guns, you have, like, the 3-round burst and then the single fire shot,
Yeah.
and I didn't think there was one for the shotgun.
No.
The I know that you have, like, rapid fire with the batarang style weapons.
Mhm.
Um,
And all of those is like just like I had so much fun designing the actual gunplay, like because like when you have the Fang blade, which is the throwing star,
mm,
um, it's very accurate. I mean, it's like flawlessly accurate. You can be really far away, you just nail exactly what you're aiming for. There's no spread. And then but when you do the 3 off, because it's such a quick, that one's just like it's almost like a shotgun. So if you have that weapon equipped, of course, the right click is really good if you're facing somebody comes up to you and you're close to them. But otherwise, if you need the long distance, that one's super accurate. Um, then each one of them there's other weapons and they have different sort of right click, some of them. But I just put that animation in of the fighting where he has the kick. I don't know. I had to add that in. It's been bugging the hell out of me. He just had the 1-2 punch, and I was
Oh,
like, I
yeah.
gotta add a kick in.
Yeah.
But the kick
I think
looks pretty good.
it's obligatory, I think, at this point. Like, every first person shooter's gotta have, like, after was it Angerfoot? I think that was like, no, you must. You
And
also
he's a
have to have a skill
superhero.
level. Yeah.
He's got a kick. I mean, what superhero is just gonna go fisticuffs? So,
Yeah, it's hard to think of one. 'Cause
Yeah.
none of the good ones. No, there's no, like, old school stand-up boxer superheroes. Has there
Yeah,
ever
this is
been a superhero who was Daredevil was a boxer, right?
yeah, he was Hell's
Yeah,
Kitchen.
yeah.
Yeah.
I got it now. Well, that's
Love
the only one I
Daredevil.
can think of.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, I like Frank Miller Daredevil.
Yep.
I think that there's just this thread of, like, during that time frame, he was just turning all of your favorite goofy superheroes into these, like, maniacal kind of, like, anti-hero darkness grittier
And
forms.
I like the goofy era too a little bit. I mean, not too goofy. I don't the 1960s Batman, we got a little too much. Like when you're looking and you got like Rip Van Winkle Batman, I go, yeah, I don't know if I like that. But the old Daredevils, like they were pretty great too. There was so many great stories that I remember from when I was a kid in the 80s, just reading these comics.
Mm.
So they have some good stories back then too.
There's a really I think it's an early Deadpool comic where, like, the story is Deadpool gets sent back in time, and he's literally, like, page for page inside of, like, 1960s Spider-Man, and people think he's Spider-Man,
Yeah,
but it's just shitting on how goofy
yeah.
that era seemed in retrospect. I don't know, man, like, it's kinda like what you were saying earlier, like, this my generation seeing the whole thing backwards, I feel jealous, like, I kinda wish I got to see the versions of things as they emerge.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
the times were different, but
yeah.
I mean, people are generally the same. I think it's just tastes change over time, and
Mm,
uh, part of what the business we're in, is the taste business. Whether if you're a storyteller or if you're creating games, that sort of thing.
mm,
Um, you're just in the taste business, and so it changes, and sometimes you just need to try new things, or you can sort of do a revival of the old things. And I think with Night Jackal Blood Debt, it is kind of more of a revival of the 1980s style, but like you said, like an Alan Moore influence. But if Alan Moore was funny, because
yeah,
some of this is like, to me, there's not a lot of jokes in this Night Jackal game, but it's like there's just kind of funny things like that I look at and go, this is just horrible, and like almost kind of a silly way. But when you get to the very end, uh, there's like two endings, and
mm.
they're both very interesting.
Let's
They're both very fun.
reiterating on that theme, though, like, so in the '90s, when you have people making, FPS games for the first time,
Mhm.
all the jokes, all the like, we talk about Duke Nukem or, like, Blood, Doom, all that stuff was influenced by, like, The Evil Dead and just largely '80s stuff, RoboCop, you name it. It's all kind of thrown in there and obvious about it. And the music also, especially in Doom, because they were just ripping that shit off, turning it into midis. Uh, but, like, as you go through that, as you see that kind of unfold throughout time, space, whatever, it's super interesting to see how people kind of react differently, like we were saying earlier, like, based on their expectations. Um, you have basically kids who were, like, watching shit as teenagers in the '80s, then defining the '90s with '80s stuff, and then, here we are all these years later, and you're in this position where you're, like, you're making a game that's reminiscent of something in the '90s, but then again, it's, like, also reminiscent of something in the '80s without really having to be. It's, like, accurate to the time because at the time, that's what they were influenced by. It's so weird. Um,
Yeah, and this game is very anachronistic, so you're
yeah.
definitely going to feel, you're not quite sure what what we're trying to go for.
Yeah, I've learned to when Sam comes to me and he's like, "Hey, man, you should talk to this person." I kind of like go in blind. Like I just like what we talked about in our chat, and then I looked at both Night Jackal games and I was like, okay, other than that, I'm just gonna kind of find out what's going on with this dude. But so did you after school did you like actually work in film and TV? You said you had moved to LA there for a portion of time.
Yeah,
Then
of course. I moved there. I started working for a television show called Battle Dome, which was kind of like their. It's kind of like you take a, you remember the show American Gladiator?
oh yeah,
So
yeah, for
yeah, so
sure.
you take American Gladiator and sort of put a WWE slant on it, and this is basically what it was. So there's all these characters and stuff like that, and um, so I used to work on that, and then I would work for Jan de Bont and Lucas Foster at a place called Blue Tulip, and we did a lot of movies. Jan de Bont was he was the director of Speed and
Mhm.
Twister. And Lucas Foster produced a lot of things. He comes from the school of Bruckheimer. So it was like these powerhouses, and I was there learning from them and doing my grunt work. So I would work there, and I would work on early stages of Equilibrium. I don't know if you know that movie with Christian Bale.
I do.
Yeah, Kurt Wimmer film. So we did that, and then I moved on and went into tech, and I started doing a lot of tech work at that point, and working for Nissan, doing their Nissan USA build out. DisneyPictures.com. I built that website out and a lot of movie stuff. So I did a lot of Flash movie sites and games. And I started my own company, did that for a while. And then I went off and I made a feature film for like $15,000 in LA. And it was like a fucking nightmare to make. But it went on to do quite well. Um, won Best Feature at Malibu International Film Festival, which was really nice. And then after that, because it costs so much money to do film, I got back into working in tech again, and then I would teeter back and forth. I would write. I had a writing partner. It was one of the writers for Eastbound and Down, actually,
Mhm.
and we would write a couple things. We had an R.L. Stein was going to. This is before the Goosebumps movie. He was going to be R.L. Stein Presents, and it was going to be this story we did, and we went to Zemeckis with it, and he passed, and then producers got cold feet, so we abandoned that project. Had a screenplay make it into core collection in the Oscars library, which was awesome. So all that kind of stuff I was dealing with. Never, never quite enjoyed. I enjoyed all that stuff, but I never quite enjoyed the industry. Like, the
Mhm.
magic you see from the outside was never what you saw when they're making the sausage,
That's
it
how
was.
that's how I feel about video games and the video games business in general. Like,
Yeah?
yeah, for sure.
Oh,
I think
I love
there's
this so much better.
well, I would say what you and I are doing, like indie games like this, working with a small publisher, that kind of stuff is very different than working on, a multi-million dollar project with a big 120 person multinational team or something like that.
Right.
So that I hate. I found that out, like by trying it. I'm like, I hate this and everything about it. I don't even like the games that get made this way because of this culture surrounding it. And I feel like I've never been in the film business, but TV sets, listening to how people talk about it, it's largely the same. It's like kind of this big boat, and you, even with power, only have so much ability to steer it the way you want it to go. So you're kind of
I
constantly
can see
fighting a
that.
system. Yeah.
Now where did you work, if you don't mind me asking?
So I came back to the States last year, May of last year. Prior to that, I had moved to Denmark and I was working for 3D Realms. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I started off as a
Mm,
producer, and I was managing several projects like Kingpin Reloaded. I
mm.
was the producer of that. Also, Combustion, which is still yet to come out, produced on that. Was it Kinderman Remedy? I went into marketing kind of later as I was working there, so I kind of transitioned from basically like leading teams of developers to make games to overall marketing for the game. So like my title was brand manager,
Mhm.
but like honestly, that doesn't communicate what I was doing. It was more like product marketing manager or something like that, like planning from when you acquire, a game for development all the way until post-release, everything that you plan to do to promote it.
Right.
And a lot of that is giving feedback to all, between the QA team and the developers, which is all great experiences. Like, I'm not complaining about having had that experience, but what I learned is that I prefer video games where, there's this sort of artisan feeling to it, not a big sausage machine that's sort of like compromising your creative vision to make it more profitable.
Yeah.
Not that there aren't things that anyone could do to make their game better or more profitable, whatever, but there's a sanitization that I think comes along with just,
Mhm.
God, we got to get this thing out. And I went through that a lot. During that time also was when the industry was like going through this kind of massive bubble break and they were just laying off everyone left and right. And the result of that is, aside from like, I hated losing all those colleagues and seeing people get, lose their jobs and everything, like, but I feel like we've talked that to death. What really hurt was seeing games that, I had personally worked on for years and years and years just kind of get lost in the overall like money discussion. It's like, okay, well, that project or whatever, fuck it, because it's only worth, this a couple $100,000 and we're moving on to something else that's going to cost more like 14 million or, that kind of thing. Which financially is the right decision to make, but if it's someone's life, like if it'd be like if someone were to just take Night Jackal and be like, well, I know you've been working on this for 4 years and all, but fuck it. We don't care about that anymore. The company's vision has changed. So, shit like that. I hate that. I really, it was just like killing me in my soul to constantly have to fight that battle every day.
Yeah, there's a corporate culture,
Mm,
and is which I think is what you're talking about, is like that corporate culture. You see it a lot in tech.
sure.
Um, yeah, Hollywood's it has that corporate culture, but it also has that old industry shittiness, just human shittiness and abuse, and that's just kind of baked in. That stuff never goes away. And I mean, people are pretty awful. And then because they hold over you, and then this is something you don't see in the corporate world, because it's kind of hard for them to do that. Um, they hold over you this professional reprisal, that you're going to get blacklisted and all that, and that is a very serious thing that they do, and they it's a manipulation tactic largely when young people come to Hollywood, and they'll sort of hold it over you. So that's
I've
one of the things that I don't
I
like
have
about the sausage.
participated in blacklisting someone for
Really?
video, and yeah, and I'm not gonna say anybody's names or anything like that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
just
And
like
of course.
that exists, and there's like a version of me when I was like 23 who was super bright-eyed and idealistic about like going to work for like the biggest, coolest video game companies and all that kind of shit, and just being so excited about the art,
Mhm.
That's and then getting in there, just having that reality, like, see, it's like once you've been to a sausage factory and seen a pig get bolted in the head, you can't go back to not thinking about that the next time you have your bacon. Man, it's just
Right.
there's an innocence that goes away, I feel like. But yeah,
Yeah,
like
for sure, for sure.
everybody in the entertainment business, period, I think has that same experience of being ripped off. Honestly, there's fraudsters everywhere.
Right.
That's the problem. No matter what business you're in, and the more like exclusive that business is or difficult to obtain, the more that the gatekeepers are keeping,
Sure,
you know,
sure.
keeping the walls
No,
up.
no, that makes sense.
Um, but don't let me stereotype it to death. Like, what was your experience?
At
Just
in which
in Hollywood, just trying to
Oh,
go through all that whole process, getting things made. You can't make enough money, so you're doing tech work. You're making websites, but what?
the thing that drove me nuts the most,
Mm,
was probably, was the flakiness, which is just something that is so well known in Hollywood. It's like, it's one of the reasons I left too, because I have a startup that I've been trying to, get off the ground, and I've been networking, and it's just such a flaky town. And so I just want to be around real people and talk to people, and I just don't fit that mold. I never have, you know.
Mm.
I'm a filmmaker. I like story, you know, it's all in me, but you know, I'm just there's only 26 years of this shit. I'm like I had to take a break, and I know I wanted to have more control of the things I want to do, and it's fun. I mean, look, I enjoyed writing and working with producers. You think it's not fun to have R.L. Stine, like, want to put his name on the thing that you're writing? It's
Mm.
fucking cool. It's fucking fun, but you still have to wade through the bullshit. Like, it's fun to
Just to
go
get
pitch.
the opportunity to meet
Oh, yep.
with R.L. Stein's people, and get them to talk to your people and negotiate that just to get to that point. And that's
Yeah.
there's shit that I'm never gonna be able to really talk about, like would have been, could have been video game things that might have happened that I was over the moon excited about, and just to like you were experiencing, like, it just didn't work out.
Yeah, and then, I mean, again, I wanna be clear. It's like there's something rewarding uh, about screenwriting and filmmaking. The parts about it that I like, I know I'm coming off more as a writer, but I was also a director.
Mhm,
Um, I I don't like production. I I understand it's a necessary evil. I like the writing aspect, and I like the editing aspect, and, those things I always enjoyed. Everything else, development, dealing with the histrionics and the personalities and all, it's not for me. But you get it at the end of the day, the art just it kills you because 'cause you're just like, you love it so much. I mean, it's the people that kinda make it suck, and I'm sure you had a similar experience in, like, video games, it sounds like, where it's like, it's really just the people. But what I learned is I just don't give them strength, and largely I just whenever you have a desperation, like, you're because that's how they set up the system. They want you to be desperate when you're coming in, and if you just don't have the desperation and you just kinda say, "Nah, I'm not playing that game." And, I have agency, and this is what I will and won't do, and you set up your boundaries, the people will you'll have a better experience there.
mm,
So, I mean, when you're first starting off and you're young, you don't know these things. You're just you have no clue. You don't know how to navigate this. It's over time, learned experiences give you the wisdom. But, you know, I mean, I remember, and it would be for things that the threat of professional reprisal was always for things that were not your fault. It's just it's a power play, it's abuse. Like I'll give you an example of what happened to me. There was this lady who she was a development executive of this place I worked, and there was the big director, Jan de Bont, I've already said, and Lucas Foster. So not a lot of people at this company. It was like very few of us. And she would always want me to make copies of everything that went to Jan. Well, Jan was up for like big movies, Tomb Raider, at the time, Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man movie before it went to Raimi. There were like 5 people up for it, and Raimi was not one of them, oddly enough.
it's just so weird to me, like, just to envision my childhood if Sam Raimi didn't direct Spider-Man would be
Well, David Fincher was up for it.
I know, it's just so weird, like, those movies, I was like, I was the perfect
Yeah.
age, right? Like,
Yeah.
perfect age. This is so that era is Spider-Man to
Oh, yeah.
me, right? Just the idea of anyone but Sam Raimi doing it, like, shakes up my whole universe. It, like, could completely change my zeitgeist. Right,
I'm gonna
right.
100% say that I am so glad that he because the Raimi Spider-Man, I mean, like, you can say what you want about the 3rd one, but the first 2 especially, just he not I mean, it's just they're such perfect films.
The piano scene in the 3rd movie is, like, the best thing. I It just makes me so happy watching it because I feel like part of that is, like, that anger that you're seeing in that scene is the filmmaker's anger at the production. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh my gosh.
That
So
3rd one's pretty goofy, but in a good way. I mean, I like it's a kinda good goofy, but,
Topher Grace as Venom too was just, like, a mistake. Like, he still had that '70s show stank on him at that time.
I don't think he's not a very good actor,
He
and
was good in, Flight Risk.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
It's a Mel Gibson movie. Yeah, it doesn't
Oh,
matter.
okay.
You don't like Topher Grace's acting, that's fine. Moving on.
No, I like him in that '70s show, and he seems like now that all this stuff's been coming out about Danny Masterson, I remember I met his sister, years and years ago, when she came to NCSA when I was a counselor there, but all the stuff coming out with Danny, uh, is kind of odd, and, like, you see how kinda gross everybody is, and I think there was this grossness behind, and which makes sense. I mean, that's how people are. I've known some pretty bad things to happen to people, but it seemed like Topher Grace was actually the nicest, like a nice guy, and not part of that gross Hollywood. So I don't mean to throw shade at him and say he's not a good uh, actor. I mean, I don't think he could pull off Eddie Brock. I think he was
Yeah.
miscast.
Be
Was my point.
being a, like, villain like that at that time, I'm not saying he can't play a villain because he has in other roles, and I don't question them. It's just, for me, he's just the guy from that '70s show trying to play Venom, it didn't work.
Yeah,
So,
no,
yeah,
it definitely
yeah,
didn't.
but
But getting back to what I was saying, it was like I helped Jan with, Spider-Man. I was, I he knew that I was a big Spider-Man fan, and through his assistant, and he was like, "Oh, I want Heath to read this script." I wasn't supposed to. It was a red script. I don't mean to get him in trouble.
Mm.
But, uh, it was a red script, meaning it was on red paper, so you couldn't photocopy it. And it was the first iteration. It had Electro in it. It was the first script. And I remember just sitting down and reading it, and, it was just kinda fun. I went in and, like, he didn't know anything about Spidey. He called him Spiderman or
Wow.
something like that. 'Cause he was also from the Netherlands, he's Dutch, so
Yeah.
people like, He's," that's what he used to call me. He's, that's a fucking Spiderman." And I would tell him, I'm like, "Oh my god," he's like, I said, "It's a really well written script." I said, "I just don't know if it's Spider-Man." And he says, "Yeah, it's not exciting enough." And um I said, "You should look in this character, Kraven the Hunter." And I started pitching him on it and all these different villains. And I went to the comic shop and bought him a bunch of stuff of like Gwen Stacy's death and all that so he could read it. Um, but anyway, my point is like all that kind of stuff, when you get attention from him, draws out this ire from other people. And I was pretty low on the totem pole. In fact, I was the lowest guy on the totem pole at the company. And there was a development executive, and she would tell me all the time, she was like, "Anything that comes across his desk, I want a copy of it, but I'm not supposed to tell him." So unethical. And I'm like, "I'm not gonna fucking make a copy for you." Like, I didn't tell her that because she's holding professional reprisal over my head, and she's having relations with a very well-connected producer in Hollywood at the time, and I'm like, you know, you can't run afoul of her, but also my boss, which is Jan de Bont, I can't run afoul of him and then, like, make copies of scripts that are only for his eyes and then give it to. So she put me in a pickle, and I was really in a tough spot where I could not. I had to break the rules. So what I wound up doing, just so we're clear, so because there was a copier machine, and every time I would come back and make copies for Jan, she would know, and she'd come walking through and check what I was making copies of, and I would get in a lot of trouble. She would dress me down if those copies, if I wasn't making her a copy. So I had to go into our library of scripts and grab one, like I grabbed Toy Story or something, and just, and I had to put that out as a ringer and have those separated out and make copies of the actual script that was in the cabinet off to the side, and just play a game of. I mean, I had to get really good at it too, because she would come by, and you have to be very careful making copies because she would check them. So I had to be really quick and put them up and make copies of the Toy Story, and she'd come out and be like, what are you making copies of? I said, Toy Story. She was, why does John want that? I was like, and I'd play dumb. I'd like, I don't know. I said, but I'm making you a copy. She was like, I don't need that. So that's how I got around it. I had to play games like that, but because they're really awful, and they want to ruin your career for their advancement. It's really strange. Anyway, that was my diatribe. Hope you enjoyed my TED Talk.
No. This is, obviously this is super interesting and topical, man. Like, people are hungry to hear about, like, what's it really like, and I think that the past 5 years have just been nonstop kind of pulling the curtains back on all these different industry, all the everything to do with entertainment industry and politics, which is the entertainment district of the military industrial complex. But yeah, it's like you're talking about Danny Masterson, but I was just recently watching documentary about the Nickelodeon kids and how fucked up all that was with the cast of all that and Zoe 101 and the Amanda Show, which was like that's my childhood.
Yeah.
And then it's all ruined now. Like I'll never
Yeah.
be able to look at anything Drake Bell ever did again the same way. Or whatever, Dan Snyder, all that stuff. It's
Snyder,
horrible.
yeah. I mean,
God.
here's what I say:
Mhm.
separate the art from the artist, because there's people are gonna be awful, but, like, I can compartmentalize. I certainly
Yeah.
can. Because he was in, God, Better Off Dead. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie with, John Cusack, but it's brilliant, and I would definitely watch it. It's just like who was that other guy? Oh, shit, the guy who got canceled, Kevin or shit, he was in, Glengarry Glen Ross. He's such a great actor. Anyway, these things happen and you go, "Look, this is an awful person, but I can't stop watching good art and and just because they did something that I dislike or
Mhm.
there were awful people." That is just going to you're never through history, we'd have to go through and burn half of LACMA down. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
there's gonna be
I'm with you, like, I can simultaneously like Burzum and still right now emotionally not wanna listen to anything Diddy ever made. Like,
Yeah,
it doesn't mean I'm never gonna put on another Biggie record and still enjoy it or anything like that, but, like, it just the raw emotional feeling, like, I can't listen to this right now without thinking about that, so I just need time to
yeah,
separate
sure.
from it, that
Sure,
kinda thing,
sure.
and it's yeah, I'm not gonna stop watching Quentin Tarantino movies because of Harvey Weinstein either, like,
Right.
it's not negotiable. Um,
Yeah, well, then that's exactly the point.
yeah,
Everybody's mileage varies. Like, you may find something, uh, some sort of content that you look at and go, I don't mind. I can get past it."
sure.
But, it's just you gotta it's like, how crazy is like, if something happened that I disagree with or don't like, or if somebody's really a monster, that you just don't enjoy the art, because 'cause you're thinking,
Right.
"Oh, I'm supporting them," and you're not supporting them, you're enjoying art. Just fucking enjoy it, you know what I mean? Like, just,
Yeah. I
like,
think
Roman Polanski did Chinatown. Chinatown's one of the best fucking movies ever
it's
made.
like you read my mind. I was thinking of, like, Roman Polanski's, like, the granddaddy of them all, like, the big boss of the Hollywood people who escaped, being prosecuted, and that doesn't make The Ninth Gate any less impressive. It doesn't make Rosemary's Baby any less of a great movie, like, that's
There you
all
go.
true, but
It's
it does
beautiful.
s it does say a lot about the whole, like, conspiracy theory of, like, Hollywood pedophilia, blood-sucking, demon worshippers when, like, Polanski happens to also keep making movies about basically, like, resurrecting the devil and stuff like that, but, um, it's wild.
Yeah.
The professional wrestling business, that like, I can talk about that firsthand, like, also full of just, like, incredibly shady power games, like, all the time, even at the lowest levels. It's like
Really?
yeah, one time I had driven from where Mobile is?
Mobile, out of Alabama?
Yeah. So that's where I grew up, but I'd driven from there to Jackson, Alabama, and, s Action Mike Jackson, if anybody's old enough to remember him, was the kind of the head of the territory showrunner guy up there. I have nothing against him. This is the only time I ever met him, and for all intents and purposes, he's a great dude. But I brought a couple of my friends with me who were not wrestlers and those kinda old school guys like that. They just told me, like, "You're off the show for even bringing people around who are not, like, smart and this is in, like, 2013. This is not like, we're not keeping kayfabe. I didn't understand it, but something that simple could just get you excluded from working at all.
You know what they
Um,
say, "Never meet your heroes."
it's and like I said, I have nothing against him. It's just that's the kinda stuff you're up against. Just to I mean, like, just to be given the opportunity, fuck getting paid. That was not even on the menu. Like, just to get in front of a crowd and do this thing that you've been practicing to do is extremely difficult. That's why I admire, like, stand-up comics because they have no one else they can blame for their success or failure other than really themselves. At least, the performance is all on one person. And in your case, like, so you're solo dev, like, just you making the game?
Yep,
That's
just me.
yeah, that's a different beast. I don't think I could handle that. Like, I need to be, like, part of a team and delegate tasks and stuff like that, so just being all in one, as many people who do that as I know and have interviewed, talked to, it's a rough job. It's a lot of things to consider.
It's a lot of things to consider, but also it's a lot less expensive.
Yeah, and you don't have to
I'm
argue with anybody creatively, like, you're just like, "This is how I want it to be."
Yeah, and, like,
Yeah,
and also you get to take a lot of chances. Like, I like things at this level. I mean, even if you had a small team, you can take chances, but,
sure.
um, yeah, I would prefer to have people to delegate. I don't like doing the production artwork as much and, like, drawing the sprites and all this kinda shit. It's like, it gets really tiring and, like,
Yeah,
I mean, I've been working on this game. I think I started December, and so, and we're now almost finished. We're just doing, like, the last little things and, like, but outside of the move, I took basically 2 months off to move to Austin and but, almost 2 months. Outside of that, like, I've been working pretty diligently, like, it's been my focus. And after this, I'm going right back into my startup.
right,
So, yeah, I would like to have a team. I would like to have people that I could work with on this, so that would be nice, but the thing is I'm capable of solo deving as well.
yeah,
I just don't like to solo dev because it usually takes so much of my life. Like, I think it was 2014 or something like that. It's like I built a social network app, back in the day. It was called Hearshot, and, it was pretty cool, but it was formidable. I mean, I had to do all the back end and, like, the database schemas and all the security on it in the front end, um, and it was back in the day when it was, like, hot to do it, and I got a lot of attention from, like, accelerators and things, but, like, all that stuff fizzled out because I built everything and I was paying for all the hosting, and then, like, I just had to give it up. Had to get rid of it. It's so much better to have a team and have people, and also it gives you something, it gives you motivation, I feel like. If you got other people that are relying on you, you feel that energy and you just wanna go forward and just keep working on it. Like, you kinda reach a point in a lot of projects, if you're doing it by yourself, you're like, I don't know, like, you just go, "What am I doing?"
so yeah, teams, though, with anything, because I feel like military teaches you that delegation skill, and wherever you go for the rest of your life, you kinda, like, still have that in the back of your mind, at least for me. So, like, there is a point at which there's too many people to continue to have, like, everyone has equal say around a table kind of
God, yeah.
thinking, which is kinda where I prefer to exist. Like, I sort of like the 3 to 12 range kinda group size, 'cause, everyone can kind of freely bounce each other's ideas off of each other, and everyone knows each other's name, that kinda shit. But, yeah, like, once you get into the, what's it, Dunbar's number or whatever kind of frame, you have to have kind of like a hierarchy, or else it falls apart, and it's so difficult to make that transition. I think for any company in any industry, just going from garage to now I have employees is crazy, crazy difficult.
Yeah,
So,
no, I agree. I
um,
100% agree.
but with you've done now what, three games completely by yourself?
Uh, well, I mean, I factor in now, this is the first time I've had a publisher like Sam, so, I don't know if I could say it's completely by myself because I do get feedback from Sam. Sam, is an important part of this. But I'm the sole dev, yeah. So this would actually be the 4th game. So
What was the
there's
Night
so there's
Jackal? There's
Night
a horror
Jackal,
game, right? You had a horror.
DFR,
Okay,
yeah. DFR The Light, which was my first game, and I just kinda put it up and, like, just it was my first time building, well, my first game in Unity and then on Steam. And then I did a VR version because I got, like, the HTC Vive and, like, did a VR version of the game,
right.
um, which is really fucking scary for me. I hate horror games. I'm just not good at them. They scare the shit out of me. Like, it's the worst is, like, watch me, I mean, I should just be, I mean, I wouldn't do it because I have no interest, but, like, I should just be Twitch streaming out, like, me playing horror games because it would just be the most entertaining thing. Because I don't know why I get so invested and it's terrifying.
Oh
I
yeah,
get
dude.
easily
There's just something about like you cannot achieve that level of like immersive
no.
fear any other way. Like in games, just take it to a whole new level. I mean,
And
I've got
VR is next level.
Resident Evil tattoo on my arm and everything. Like just like, and I'm talking like Resident Evil 2 fixed camera angles. Like it,
Mhm.
just love that stuff. It's so um. There's something about getting over that fear, like pushing yourself a little bit further than you could the last time. Did you ever play Alien Isolation?
Well, that one I actually streamed. It was
Okay.
back in the when it first
Yeah.
came out, it was, like, PS4 days when they just added in, like, the streaming into the platform,
Yeah.
and back then, it's like I had, like, 100 people watching or something like that, and it was I mean, that was pretty impressive for back in the day, but it was all because it scared the shit out of me. The whole time I'm playing, and I was like I sat there and just I was like, I'm playing for the rest of the game," and I just played through. Yeah, it's absolutely well, actually, it's funny, DFR, The Light, was inspired by Alien Isolation because I wanted to create an intelligence where because one thing I liked that they did was they had the alien have its own, intelligence, and then they had another intelligence that would another AI that would have feed it and just kinda push it in the direction and, like, if it was like, "Hey, it's time to kinda go," or if they try to pull it back. I mean, there's, like, 2 different AIs working together, and the alien never knew what this sort of overseer AI had. I was like, "That's kind of a cool idea." So, DFR was that, a
Alright.
little bit, like, in a super bare bones, super indie, you know, like, small game, but, I mean, it is really a small game, like, it's just you just play it and then you're done. But, like, people have liked it. Like, we've had streamers me, had streamers play it on YouTube and then, like, on Twitch, and they've enjoyed it. It's always been, like, a crowd pleaser, but it's so old now, I don't think it can keep up with games,
Yeah.
you
I
know?
just think that, like, horror games that can be more or less beat in, like, 2 hours are perfect for streamers. Like, they're looking for that, and there's a huge market in, like, the kind of arguably the most profitable genre, like, cost to receiving money for it, maybe not I'm not saying, like, the biggest obviously, that's Grand Theft Auto, it's the biggest games, but small investments, big returns, horror all the way. That's no doubt. Like, look at I mean, I'm friends with Ted Henschke. I need to get him back on the show sometime at some point, but he was at Dread XP when they started doing, like, these horror collections, Dread X collections or whatever, and instead of trying to make one epic horror game that's 8 hours long, they're like, "Here's 12" I basically, like, demos almost for games that you could beat all of them in 30 minutes to 2 hours, somewhere in that time frame, and based on the feedback they would get from those collections, which were already making them money, then they would decide which of these ideas to put money forward. Then that same dude leaves, I don't know what the reasoning was, but he leaves Dread XP and goes to Critical Reflex, and then now we're seeing, like, Shotgun Roulette and Mouth Washing and all these, like, really big horror games come out of Critical Reflex, and now apparently he's gone on and, like, left them and started a completely new company. So, like, wherever that dude goes, just like these, like, horror games start making money, but it's definitely a market worth keeping an eye on, and like you said, it's hard to compete with the sheer flood of other people trying to capitalize on it.
Yeah, I
Look at
mean, and one thing I'm not interested in is chasing markets. I mean, I guess to some degree I have chasing the market right now with the boomer shooter.
nah,
That's
that would
that's entirely because Sam is so convincing, and like,
trust me, you're 8 years too late to chase the market on boomer shooters, like, that was done and
yeah,
over with.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
for
I'm chasing the market that's 8 years old. So
sure, yeah, but it's like it never goes away. I'm just saying that, like, if you wanted to make a boomer shooter that was gonna change your life monetarily speaking, the time was 2019
yeah,
probably, yeah.
right.
Uh, I'm also making a retro first person shooter right now too, and it's
Oh
just
no
like
way.
yeah, it's called Stellar Valkyrie. We've been working on it for a long time, but In the Keep it'll be like our kind of debut independent. game,
Oh,
and it's
yeah, that's what yeah, that's right, you it's what you were talking about.
sure, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, what are you making
It's
it in?
it's in the GZ Doom engine, so yeah, a different kind of animal.
Yeah,
I was gonna
these
ask, so
sorry,
what engine was DFR in?
Unity.
Okay, so why did you choose to go from Unity to Easy FPS Editor?
Sam. So Sam, uh
God, I'm seeing a thread here. Oh,
Sam reached out to me, yeah. So
oh,
Sam played Night Jackal, the first one, and he loved it. He said, he had an idea and said this could translate into a boomer shooter. And he reached out to me and he told me kind of pitched that idea. And I was like, well, like I like really bizarre ideas and like the idea of like something that seems so unintuitive because it did to me at the time. But I was like, but that sounds fun. That sounds like I can make that work or I can at
did
least try.
did he
And
just, like, find you, like, play the
yeah,
game and then hunt you down,
yeah.
cold pitch this in an email kinda? I
Well, yeah,
love
because
Sam. You
he
have
did
no
it for
idea
my
how much respect I have for this
Oh,
man,
no,
so
Sam's great. I mean,
yeah.
well, look, I'm gonna kiss his
Oh,
ass a little bit here, not because he's my publisher, just because he's so passionate about, what he does. So he's a great guy to I I have a good bullshit detector, and, I mean, it just comes with age, I guess, but he's so genuine about the boomer shooters. He loves it. You could tell it's just kind of in his soul, and he's just, just he's a good businessman too. I get that sense from him. He's just a good organizer. So you pick up on all that, and I've worked with a lot of people, and I was like, all right, I'm not getting the sense this guy is just trying to take something from me. I get a lot of like takers, and it's one sided, and this was a guy who was like, yeah, I think it's work. I was like, okay. So that's how it started, and I'm not. I'll be honest with you, I'm not the biggest fan of Easy FPS Editor. I think it's great. I think the community is amazing. I mean, there really is a great community in, like, Discord. I mean, they're pretty awesome. And I think what they created, which was never supposed to be as big as it is, the engine, is
Oh, yeah.
phenomenal. It's phenomenal what they've done with it. But again, they don't have a team like Unity or Unreal, so, it's was one person and then they handed it off to another person, so it's just only 2 people have ever worked on this, and they've got lives, they're doing this shit for free. So, I mean, hats off to them. They did a fantastic job, but that's still the constraints of being kind of a small one-person deal, um, makes it very challenging because you have to get around the limitations, and people playing games kind of expect something that you can't deliver sometimes. I mean, because like, the core elements, the core mechanics of that engine are fantastic. You've got, like, the good Quake engine on there, like, you can tell. So, it's like the core is there. It's great for FPSs, but then when you try to expand out and push, it gets very you can introduce a lot of bugs really easily. And in some of them you just can't solve, and you go, "Well, what are we supposed to do? We go to market with, this bug or something?" So you have to kind of figure out a creative way around it, and, like, for instance, I was using a stable version, and the saves weren't working, so it wasn't stable, and I didn't know until I was almost done with the entire fucking game, and the saves weren't working because I didn't need to save because 'cause I'm developing, I'm, like, just building the game up, and I'm like, "God damn it." I was like, "I gotta I gotta figure out how to save." So then I had to go through and start downloading newer versions, and you never wanna do that when you're in the middle of production because then you're
Trust me,
introducing
I know. Yeah.
yeah, and so I had all these things break, and I had to just so the saves work, so I had to go back and make sure that I could fix those, and it's a little bit of a nightmare, whereas, like, in Unity, you would build your own save, and, I mean, there's benefits. There's benefits to the fact you don't have to build all these extra stuff out, but they are limiting. And, I'm certainly not shitting on this engine because it is pretty great.
Yeah.
And I think we really pushed it. I think we pushed a lot, especially with the grappling hook. And maybe one of the things maybe I'll make some, if this game does well enough, maybe and it gets enough attention and people like it, we'll do a new version and, really kind of do like, old school Jackal in the comic book days and have them like, fight these really great characters, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's one of those things, man, where like when you are setting out to make a game like this, where you have potentially like 1,000 different ways it could go based on the outcome of stuff like what you're doing right now. Like Stellar Valkyrie also being a boomer shooter and everything. One of the problems that I face, and I think you're gonna face too, is trying to like get people who are not already boomer shooter fans to want it, to like want to give it a shot. Then the added part of that with this easy FPS engine thing, and I have to be like honest, I guess, without trying to be like overly critical. I think DOSMan or whatever could either benefit from switching it to a completely different engine altogether, or at least getting to a point where like they have control of this engine and a programmer who can manipulate it. Cause there's just like little limitations that are just part of the engine that I think kind of hurt the value
Yeah,
because like historically all of the games are, $3, whatever. Nobody's under any um no one's falsely put under the impression that they're being like asked for too much or ripped off or whatever. It is what it is. Like it's a simple boomer shooter. It's in this engine, whatever. But like having spatial audio, which is like for me, that's the number one thing about this engine as a player that just like irritates me. Is when you don't kill an enemy in this room and you keep going in the game and you can still hear them for the whole rest of the
yeah,
level, kind of shit. Like just something that simple could really greatly improve, I think, the quality of the player's experience. But
I
dude,
agree.
there's no shame in playing with the limitations you have and then seeing how that goes, and then, like you said, coming back to it later with like a reimagined version. I've told people like Stellar Valkyrie, like if it's a huge success, we'll remake it 10 years later in Unity or Unreal or something like that. But for
But
now,
honestly, I don't think it's a bad idea
yeah.
to create a Unity boomer shooter like engine. Um, I mean, there's a lot of people that do work in Unity, and there's a lot of flexibility. And if you had a set of an engine that you build, a set of classes in there that you could pull from and say, This is open source, use it, modify it." Like you can
Mm.
fork it on GitHub, and then like I think that people would be. I mean, that would give you a great deal of flexibility. If I had that opportunity, because there's so many things in this engine, I wish I just had the source code,
Oh yeah,
and I
dude.
and I just wish I could just crack it and you can change it sometimes. But like, and just so we're clear, because I want to make sure that it's clear, I'm not shitting on the engine. Like the guys have made it, did something so impressive, and far more impressive than anything that I've done in terms of creating an engine. So, hats off to them and kudos to them. But like, I just the limitations really do, like you say, it's apparent and you see them.
Oh yeah, I mean, these are just like marketing things that
Yeah.
for some reason matter a lot, even though like let's just say I was to take a game developer who had never published a game before,
Hmm.
and I'm trying to like sell them a bill of goods about like why this will be a great idea for you to do, work in this engine or whatever.
Hmm.
Like someone who's brand new to it is not going to know something like the fact that this engine doesn't have achievement, like I can't have Steam achievements, is going to dramatically hurt your sales as opposed to just that one simple change. Like if I just had these achievements. Why? I don't know why people want that shit. Uh, I've never wanted a Steam trading card in my life. I think I've sold every one that I've ever made, but you know what I'm saying? Like they sell copies. And it's not that hard of a concession. But in this case, it's like same thing with us in the Doom engine. Like you technically can't do that with the Doom engine. It's like against the law because of like some age old, you know, way that
Really?
they decided to open source the code and then so on and so forth. So you can put a GZ Doom game on Steam. You cannot port it to console, and you cannot like have it interact directly with Steam unless you have some kind of workaround for that. You know what? It's just like
Wow.
you want something that's open source, right? Like that you can
Yeah.
actually like manipulate, and but you also want something that talk about working with a team. If I have a programmer working on a game and then that guy gets hit with a fucking car or something, I need to replace him. but the skill isn't something that is hireable, right? That's a problem too, when you start to scale up.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think yeah, I didn't even know that about GZ Doom. I didn't know you couldn't put it on consoles and, you couldn't communicate, but there is an EXE apparently that you can do Steam achievements,
Right.
and I was gonna try to add those in, but I was like, is it really worth it?" Like, da, 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 so but you're saying it
It's
probably is.
it's 100% worth it. If it's for the effort you're gonna put into the amount that moves sales, I would say it's worth it. It's good advice. Um,
Okay,
eh eh
maybe I'll have to do Steam achievements.
yeah, if it's possible, and, I don't know, like, the Easy FPS engine, I've never worked in it myself. It's just, from the
There's
player side,
an the
there's some concessions.
executable somebody cracked the executable appar oh, but you know what? It may be the wrong version. Oh, crap. Well, I have to see. Maybe I can get it
Kids
different.
listening at home, if you're thinking about making a game and putting it on Steam, you will likely sell more copies of your game if it has achievements. So if you make a decision to use an engine that doesn't allow for that, just understand that you are making that concession.
But
But
also
there's other benefits.
if you're younger and you're looking for an engine anyway, I because I feel like young people are really good at learning new tech and, because they're such empty slates. Like,
Sure.
the older you get, the more you bring your perspective and worldview and all, so it stifles your ability to learn. When you're young, you can jump right into Unity and, like, start, building and do some basic tutorials, and it'll stick in your head, and
Yeah.
it'll stick really well. That's just the power of being young. So that's what I would do. I would 100%, work in a young engine. So you should learn to code anyway. I think in this day and age, there's just really no excuse, and you need to learn because once you learn that skill, anytime you go to a new programming language or engine or framework or whatever you're working in, that those things translate. I've worked in so many languages and so many frameworks, so many engines and so many IDEs and so many different things, and it all translates. Like, it doesn't take long to kind of figure out, okay, that's what this is, and this is how I do this. Syntax changes, but you can jump between, I mean, any kind of ECMAScript to Python to Rust, and I mean, you Go and Objective C. You can jump between them, and you'll configure it out. It doesn't take much. You'll kind of understand. Yeah, the little things will be different, but you'll have that skill, especially if you do it when young. So that's what I would do. If you're trying to build games, I would go into an engine and that's already out there like Unreal or Unity. I prefer Unity. And because Unity is more developer centric, and I think Unreal is more creative centric. So, and I'm more of a developer centric guy because I like to build classes and I like code to be able to do what I want it to do. So that's what I would do. More so than doing an engine because it's a path of least resistance. And it's if you're a little older, get into the easy FPS editor, get into those things that already have the elements built in for you, and you just kind of create because there's a lot of people in the easy FPS editor forums and Discord. I notice largely just super immensely creative people. Maybe not big coders,
That
but
that's an observation that I think is like this engine is made for people who
yes,
creatively want to make this type of game and just do not know how to code. So,
yes,
there's that's great for those people, but, like, just looking at it from, like, a business standpoint and, Sam's doing fine. I just mean choosing to work in that limited space is a choice that ultimately, like, has a price, like anything
yeah.
else. Yeah.
But I mean, Sam's really doing a great job of like really like what I love is like whenever he does these games, like he always comes up with these concepts. I go, "Oh, that's a really good concept."
Mm.
And he partners with people like me and other developers that do more. I guess some people do more typical boomer shooters. But his concepts are always like, "Oh man, I would play a game like that." I think he taps into
No,
something.
he's brilliant, like, super creative guy, like, he's the dude in the boardroom just throwing out movie ideas, until something
Yeah,
sticks, like, and then like, "Oh, I like that," like, "And what if he got shot by, out of a cannon into a flaming ball?" And just keep going on and on. I love that
Yeah,
guy.
Blood Match looks so good. Have you seen anything
Yeah.
for that?
Yeah, oh,
It looks
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. But
Gladiator boomer shooter.
again,
Genius.
he's just taking every, like, conceivable genre that I like,
Mhm.
and, okay, what if that was this kind of a game? You know, and that's great. He and I, the last time he was on this podcast, we were talking about, like, what if we made, like, a 50 cents, like, rapper kind of shooter game, but it's an FPS, so we have to go find a rapper to put their name on this, you know, like, and act like, it'd be like Travis Scott's Boomer Shooter, you know, that kinda thing. I don't know. But he's always, always, always throwing stuff like that against the wall. You are a unique case because, you know, like, a lot of this is people kind of already making their games, and it's just like, "Hey, would you like to try to make some money at it?" But in your case, it's like he found you because he had an idea for your IP and talked you into this shitty engine. That is so great.
He
Yeah.
did. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, "Hey, check this out," and then, like, he showed me, and I saw it, and I was like I actually talked to my wife about it, and I was like, "I don't know, should I get into this?" And he hit me at just the right time where I was like, I needed a distraction. And a lot of
Mm,
shit going on, and I was like, this sounds great. This gives me a chance to be distracted and do something unique." And, I needed to put the startup I had on, like, a temporary hold anyway, and I was like, "Great." And it's consumed me so much now that I'm like, "All right, I gotta see this to its, like, the finish line and make sure it's really the best game it possibly can be." And then I'm gonna be, likely jumping ship and going into the startup next. So, but we'll see.
yeah. Dude, it's really cool to see you just, like, being creative, shifting gears, especially, honestly, like, dudes that are kinda later in life making, you know, transitions from one art to, you know, form to the next, one job to the next, whatever. That's awesome because that's, like, what I aspire to. I like moving from project to project, and the idea of just being a 9 to 5 kinda dude sucks. Like, no.
Well, I mean, there's good and bad on both sides. I'll say that much. But I
Yeah.
mean, I think the world has just shifted to where 9 to 5 doesn't make as much sense for a lot of people anyway, because you have, the invention of the gig economy, and so
Oh,
um, I just feel like we're all just kind of stuck at the whim of that, and it's kind of
yeah.
hard to get nailed down to a 9 to 5 anyway. So, and I like to build things, and I like to make things, and it's really helpful. Like, what one thing that I'm not is a marketer. I don't get in and start, like, building out a game and then getting up and marketing. It's funny because Sam asked me something today about, like, about the game, and I was just like, "Look, dude," the old one I did, the first one, I was like,
Mm.
"I don't know numbers." I said, I never looked at the fucking sales. I just waited for if there was a check that came to me from Steam. I wasn't I don't care. I said, I built it out. I did the best I could. It got to where I liked it. And I said, here, I'm going to put it out to the world. And I did no marketing, and everything was word of mouth. And I was like, that's
Yeah.
fine. I mean, I did
It's
basic marketing, like social media, like posts and stuff, but that's it.
s art for the sake of art, man. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Honestly, like, if this was a money grab, it wouldn't be $3 on Steam, right? Like, that's just not, uh I've tried to tell Sam, like, "Your games are it's a steal to anyone who's, like, if you're a fan of boomer shooters at all, like, you could wait for a Steam, like, Boomstock or whatever, I think is tomorrow while we're doing this, while we're filming this, and it's like, go grab every single one of these games on sale for this less than half the price of probably one other double A game, and hours of entertainment for a bargain. Like, it's insane.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I think we're part of Boomstock, actually. Like, I
yes,
think
yeah, it's all happening, like, I think tonight and then the rest of this weekend.
amazing. Yeah, because Sam puts you into all those showcases, which is really nice because I have no idea what they are. So I'm like,
Yeah.
"That's great. Put
No,
me in
he's
them."
very, very well connected. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, his finger in a lot of pies, and I think that's why me and him get along so well. Like, we kind of, like, have really similar backgrounds. We're both kinda, like, working in the industry, wanting to ultimately own our own studios and publishing our own games, and that's exactly what he's doing, that's what I'm trying to do. I look up to him in that regard.
pretty cool. Yeah. I'm not as interested in publishing and being a dev forever. I'm gonna bail into something completely different. But
Yeah, no.
we shall see. I mean, well, you'll still be in the code centric world. I mean, I'm still going to be in the dev world, but I just don't want to. Here's my thing is like I'm not as interested in just always coding. I like coding. I've coded things. I've coded things for myself. Um, I mean, I had a trading bot one time that was like trading crypto. I mean, like,
Yeah.
and I was doing like, and it's just things that I build and like, I mean, it was looking for, it would pull down like price action and it was looking for candle flow and things like that. So it would try to recognize and it would make trades and it was it's kind of amazing. And like, I was like, this is pretty cool. Um, but you reach a point where you're like, well, I don't want to sit around and just I mean, like, do that for myself, sure. If I open up a Raspberry Pi and do some Python, that's totally fine, or Node.js or something. I was like, but I don't wanna, I don't wanna always be the guy building things like, code because you reach a point where you're like, I don't know if I have kids. I don't wanna be up till 5 in the morning coding because that's something I would do, is like, I'd much rather be running a business and be up until 5 in the morning on a Friday starting Monday, 'cause that's what you have to do when working my, 500 hours weeks. But, I don't know, for right now, that seems more appealing to me.
I really enjoy the process of, like, setting a project up for success, right? So,
Yeah.
is something like a guy like you who comes through, it's like, I don't really think about the numbers of sales or, it's not my interest, like, that's totally fine. But I would just say, like, it's so beneficial to have someone like Sam who can just, like, meet you 50-50 on that, like,
Mhm.
"Okay, let me do the rest." And I think that's what a lot of, like, indie developers miss out with publishers for. Like, they get a bad rap, and they should in many cases because there's so many examples of big publishers who screw people over, whatever, get into bad deals and predatory. That all exists, but then, like, you forget about the benefits of, like, having someone whose job it is to just handle all that shit you don't care about. Um, so for me, instead of getting a publisher, I was like, "Let me just found one, get a bunch of people who like to do that shit around me, make that their job, and I can be creative."
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point, like, I think if you're an egghead or a creative type, you don't want the added layer that some people, like, for instance, Sam does a really good job of.
Sure.
But, it's just like certain people are just made differently, and it's one of those things that, like, I wish I was a better marketer, not. It's not one of my strengths, that's okay, it doesn't have to be, but, you wanna find like, some people just it's just natural to them, and that we all have our different talents, so I agree with you. It's like, if you can find somebody because otherwise it just doesn't happen, and you put it out to the ether, and if it's not word of mouth carrying it off, on on its own,
Mhm.
like giving it wings, then it peters and it dies out, and you just go, "Well, guess we're not gonna do that." So, and on to the next thing, and I've done that a lot on projects, which is not very smart because, like, at some point you start losing money and you go, "Okay, I gotta correct the ship," and so but, honestly, we all do this for a paycheck, but, like, we're not I'm not under any illusion, or, sorry, any illusion that this is going to be, like, some big payout, like, I'm gonna be after this, we're all gonna be triple A, you know?
Yeah, I think that there's an expectation and a way of making money at this that isn't based on trying to get a hit. It's like the music industry, in the 50s when it was like all about like trying to get hits and like but you could make a living as a session musician, right? Like you don't need to be the hit writing machine. You could just be the guy who's like making a living and happy to do that. Regardless, so like when it comes to micro indie games like this, it's just that you need to ideally, like in Sam's case, like put them out at a rate such that you're making enough to pay your bills and shit while you're, iteratively creating a backlog. And then ideally at some point you have a library of IP and games that you can kind of sit on. Book authors, whatever. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good goal to have.
And everybody kind of aspiring to that dream, but you don't need to put everything into like this idea that I'm gonna make $1 million in this one game. Like you're actually like far more likely to make $1 million if you make 100 games.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, none of which individually make $1 million. So just keep that in mind to the folks listening. Dude, this has been really cool. Heath, thank you so much for your time.
Hey, thank you, Ty. I appreciate this. Thanks for having me on.
Night Jackal.
Yeah, thank you so much to Heath for coming on the show. And if you're listening to this right now, go check out Night Jackal. Go to DOSMan Games website. Get everything they have. It's really great value. I'm really glad to be friends with these folks, and looking forward to you guys telling me what you think of the game. So this is, Tuesday right now? It should be out this Thursday, but no matter when you're hearing this, just go to Steam and check it out. Without any further ado, though, man, I love you. God love you. Stay in the keep.